Welcome. Today we are going to be ranking all of the original covers from the Wheel of Time series. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I love these books, obviously, and I love a lot of these covers, and I think that they are some of the best in all of fantasy. And if you go to the store today, you're going to see a lot of generic covers depending on where you are. Some television show tie-in kind of stuff. But these are some of the best covers of any fantasy that I've seen ever. We do have some that are not perfect, but today I wanted to rank them. I just wanted to talk about them and see what you guys think and what your rankings are going to be. So, let me know in the comments down below how you would rank these. But a little bit of background. I think 14 out of 15 Wheel of Time books were all done by Darrell K. And the last one was done by Michael Whelan, who is obviously a juggernaut in the fantasy book cover community. But yeah, we're just going to get started here with number 1, The Eye of the World. So I'm going back and forth between the actual cover and the cover art itself. Just because, the actual cover with the words and all the stuff on it is kind of what I'm ranking, but when you actually blow up all of the artwork, you see a lot more details than you might not see if you're just looking at the physical edition of the book. But this one is honestly one of the most iconic book covers, I think, in all of fantasy. You've got Lan and Moraine riding below the moon with all of the Emond's Field 5. If you actually count, there are, I believe there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 people in the caravan. And I believe the story with this is that this was done based off of a much earlier version, a much earlier draft of The Eye of the World, where there were a few more characters that ended up getting cut or sort of shelved for later. I don't remember if that's totally the story, but a lot of the times with these fantasy covers and sometimes with science fiction covers, they're not always 100% representative of what is actually, going down in the book. But I just think that this is like a beautiful, beautiful cover. You've even got the Drakkar up above the moon. The artwork on the trees, and especially Emond's Field down below, is just superb. I think it's no contest that this is going to be an S tier Wheel of Time book cover. Okay, and now we are going to move on to the Great Hunt. Okay, this, I'm going to say, is the first of the Wheel of Time covers that I am not the biggest fan of. So obviously, all of the artwork is incredible. I couldn't make anything like this even remotely close, but I do find that with some of these covers, the colors and sort of the scenes that are being depicted from the books could have been depicted in a little bit more colorful way, a little bit more fantastical way, and in particular, some of Daryl's character proportions are, I feel, a little bit off. So as you can see here, we've got the Horn of Valir being risen up in the forest in front of Loial, and there's Trollocs coming for them in the rocks and everything. And personally, the Trollocs are a little bit interesting because it looks more like men in suits of armor that are, horned helmets as opposed to them being true beasts. And I think that the actual color grading of the whole scene is just a little bit underwhelming, especially since this is my favorite of the Wheel of Time books. I think The Great Hunt is just incredible. And going from The Eye of the World with this like super vibrant blue, maybe it's not super vibrant blue, but this blue and the moon and then the yellow of the Eye of the World logo really popping, I think that the composition could have been a lot better. And this one, I'm going to put it in C tier for right now, but it might even drop down a little bit lower later because I do think that this is kind of a disappointing cover. especially compared to looking at the Eye of the World. All right, so now we're going on to the Dragon Reborn. Now this cover, first of all, if we're talking purely on color alone, I think that this is like one of the most popped out to you covers of the Wheel of Time. I mean, you've got the red stone columns of the Stone of Tyr. You've got the yellow glowing Kalendor, the sword in the stone. And you've also got this really crazy look at Baalzamon's face between the pillars, which if you look at some of the spines of the original covers, he's peeking out there. And I think, one, that's really clever because he stands out on the bookshelf, and it's just really creepy. I mean, the actual composition of the painting is a little strange. Some of the perspective is a little weird, and I believe this is supposed to be Perrin down here with the muscle shirt. It does look a little bit cheesy, a little bit over the top, and I think that draws away somewhat from the cover. Like, I would have just removed this guy with the axe altogether. But you do have a cool depiction of an Aiel next to him, the Aiel in the stone, and some of the soldiers behind them as well. And I really like the way that he uses the color, particularly on the back, to show how big the Stone of Tyr is on the inside. So I'm going to put this one. This one has some of the bigger criticisms I have with some of the future covers, but I think that this is going to definitely be, definitely going to be an A tier Wheel of Time cover for me. All right, now we are going to move on to the Shadow Rising. So this is one of the ones where after I've looked at the whole image together, like if I've looked at the artwork that I have on the screen right now, it is a much better piece of artwork. I like it a lot more than I do like the actual cover. Looking at it from the front, I think that the Shadow Rising, again, it's just a little bit underwhelming of a scene. There's so much incredible stuff that happens in the Shadow Rising. Like, I just think that the Shadow Rising is probably my second favorite in all of the Wheel of Time. And although the depiction of the Aiel waist in the background is incredible, the actual, foreground, the focus of the picture is this wagon, and they're all having fire, like they're having a little dinner fire around it. You can't really tell who is supposed to be who, I don't think. I mean, obviously, you've got Rand and Moiraine and the caravan driver and stuff, but there's just a lot there that I think a lot of other better images could have been constructed from this book, better scenes could have been picked out. And since it's such a good book, again, with The Great Hunt, I think that since the cover isn't nearly as stellar as some of the other ones on this list, I think I'm going to have to put this one, in C tier as well. Again, I love the buttes, I love the color of the sky, but when you actually pick up the book, you're looking at the heading, the title, and that kind of hides a lot of the better parts of this painting, in my opinion. And I just really would have liked something a little bit better. The Fires of Heaven. So the Fires of Heaven, honestly, gonna have a pretty similar take for me to the Shadow Rising. This is, I believe, a depiction of Ruidian. You have Rand, Mat, Avienda, and a bunch of Trollocs. And when I blow up the whole image, look at it without any of the text on it, again, I am much more impressed with the colors and the shape of everything. I don't know if I totally agree with his depiction of Ruidian. I have a bit of a different picture in my head. And another one of the criticisms I think Darrell gets from everybody is that, our characters are supposed to be in their late teens, and all of these people look like grown adults. Particularly Rand and Mat here look like they are in their 30s or 40s. But, whatever. It's something that I can live with, and I do really like the depiction of Mat and Rand in their clothing. I think Rand's coat and Mat's coat are superb. My only criticism for those is that I think they're a little bit long. I always imagined the coats not being quite so I don't know, I don't mean to say like dress-like, but I always assume they'd be a little bit shorter. And you can see Matt's spear and especially his wide-brimmed hat. And again, the depiction of the Trollocs is rather interesting to me, as I feel like Darrell took more inspiration there, where, again, these look more like men with horned helmets than actual monsters that are made, Dr. Frankenstein together from animals and humans alike. But I think that the actual detail on all of their armor is very cool. So I'm gonna put Fires of Heaven. I think I'm gonna put Fires of Heaven into B tier. All right, moving on to the Lord of Chaos, or just Lord of Chaos, because we all know that Robert Jordan was afraid of the word "the" pretty quickly into the series. So the Lord of Chaos, again, biggest complaint, Rand looks like he's in his 40s here, and he doesn't look particularly majestic, but this is the shot of Dumai's Wells, which, again, this is what I'm talking about, where some of these scenes from the books that are being depicted on the covers, you got to pick really good ones, and I think this is the perfect cover to depict from that battle, because that's obviously one of the craziest battles in the whole series. Shocking, dark, twisted, and you can tell things are really going in a much more serious and adult direction after Lord of Chaos. And you've got the Aes Sedai here. I love the Flame of Tar-Valon emblem on the back of this Aes Sedai. And I love, again, the depiction of the Drakkar up in the back. And some of Daryl's, just the smoke and fire in the background is like really, really vibrant to me. And I think that I really like the lettering on this one in particular. I like the bright kind of red-orange. And, I mean, Lord of Chaos is just like a crazy book title. So Lord of Chaos is definitely going to move up to B tier, high B tier for me. Okay. A Crown of Swords. This cover really, really, really has me sort of pulled in two different directions. So the depiction here of Shadar Logoth, however you say it, we're going back to the blue, we're going back to the nighttime, you've got the moon peeking out. This is an incredible depiction of what was once formerly Eredhall and is now Shadar Logoth. Again, biggest complaint, don't love Rand on the cover. He definitely looks a lot younger here. The muscle shirt is a little silly to me, but there's something about this tower that he's standing next to. There's this little triangular window sort of in the second level of the tower. I love that. Tickles my brain. I love the light coming from below. I don't really know what that's supposed to be, but supposedly, I mean, maybe potentially campfires or something like that. And then we finally have our first real depiction of a Trolloc as being an animal-human hybrid, this bird-headed Trolloc to the left here. So, although I don't love Rand, I think the actual artwork is phenomenal. I think that, again, this is like a great scene from the book to depict Rand's battle at the end. And so, yeah, I think, and the lettering on this one is a little funny. Not all of the lettering on the covers I have here is totally consistent. They changed it up a little bit, and the ones that I've looked at were the paperback editions of all these books that were printed in, like, I don't know, 2018, right before they sort of genericized them with just these random colored ones. But I think that this one is going to be, I think I'm going to put this one in between the Fires of Heaven and Lord of Chaos. The Path of Daggers. So, for full transparency, I think that The Path of Daggers is the worst book in the Wheel of Time. I didn't like it. It's, like, personally nothing really that important happens. The characters are at their most stubborn. But that's why, it surprised me that this, I do believe, this is my favorite cover in all of the Wheel of Time. The Path of Daggers is vibrant. The proportions are fantastic, the best of any of the books in the series. You've got Rand looking very regal in a coat that I think is more representative of what the clothing is supposed to look like in the books, and we know that the clothing has such an important and descriptive aspect when Robert Jordan is describing it. I love seeing the dragon banner. I love seeing, both banners. I love the fallen statue, which is supposed to be, I believe this is the statue that Rand channels into. Giving definitely, one, the Crown of Swords from the previous book, and also almost a Statue of Liberty-like appearance, which I think is cool because obviously the Wheel of Time is actually a post-apocalyptic world in the very, very far future from our own, and this is one of those elements that, the actual books compared to a lot of the artwork and ways that people have interpreted it, I think that there are a lot more sci-fi elements in the books than we think or give it credit, and I think that the actual aesthetic of the clothing in the books is supposed to lend it to more of a, not sci-fi, but we're not leaning directly into, say, like the Renaissance or medieval sort of garb. I think that the artwork on the soldiers and this whole caravan behind Rand is just incredible. I have this one in hardcover, and it's my favorite. It's fantastic. Winter's Heart, book number 9 of the Wheel of Time. So this one maybe will surprise a lot of people. I don't think that this is one of the more popular covers in any of all the books. I kind of love this cover. I like seeing Perrin on the cover. I love the banner of the red eagle of Manetheren. And I just like the snowy setting. A lot of the books have this kind of late winter or late fall look to them, where everything is sort of decaying, and it's not like the prettiest time of year to depict, but I think Darrell's depiction of the winter, particularly this tree in the front, is fantastic, and he's really good about pulling a lot of detail out of a big caravan of people, marching through the woods. I think the colors really pop. The cover I have down here, Winter's Heart, is in black, but I'm thinking of the one that's got the purple letters, and I just think it looks kind of crazy and weird, and I love that. So I'm going to put Winter's Heart into A tier. I think this is an A tier Wheel of Time cover. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's going to anger some people, but I just love how kind of weird some of the aspects of this one are. All right. So moving on to Crossroads of Twilight. I think that this is maybe one of the worst Wheel of Time covers, unfortunately. I do really like the header. I like the light blue of Crossroads of Twilight. But again, like I just mentioned, Darrell is always depicting the forest either in late fall or early spring, where everything's kind of it's kind of gray. It's kind of looking decayed. Obviously, the world of the Wheel of Time is going through a lot at this point. But it's not my favorite. And also, his strength is definitely not always in his faces. And this is, I think, one of the only covers that has, well, I guess there's some other ones, but Matt is forefront on this cover, and he just looks a little funny. I don't know. Again, no offense to Darrell himself. His horses are beautiful. The actual landscape looks incredibly realistic. I do like the melting snow to some extent. But yeah, Crossroads of Twilight, I don't think there's an F tier Wheel of Time cover, but we are definitely going to put Crossroads of Twilight into the D tier. So the Knife of Dreams cover also has a lot of the problems I've already brought up. Perrin looks like he's in his 40s here. I think that's Gaul with Perrin and Gareth Bryn as well. Although I do really like the color composition, I think that the faces here, although Perrin does look like 100 years old, they are a lot better than some of the other books. And the depiction of this tent is pretty cool. I mean, the detail of the the walls and everything, and the lamps, and the map table is all pretty incredible. I mean, Gareth Bryn has never looked better. I don't know if he's depicted anywhere else. But I don't know. I remember, like, this one didn't really speak to me that much. Like, this was not a cover that I was really excited to get when I was reading the books. And again, this is, like, really kind of when I find Robert Jordan is starting to kick things up a notch again after the last couple of books. And I just think that, you know, particularly in Knife of Dreams, there's a few scenes that I feel like could be depicted as opposed to just them being in this tent looking at, you know, war plans and maps and stuff. So I think I'm going to put this one in high C tier, but I don't think it's going to really go any higher. To the Gathering Storm. So the Gathering Storm, this cover, I really do not like this cover. Obviously, this is the first book in the Wheel of Time that Brandon Sanderson wrote the majority of, and the house, first of all, the proportions on the house, the mansion, are very, very strange to me. It looks like Rand is only standing a couple of feet in front of it, but it also looks like it's tiny, and it's supposed to be huge. The hole in the middle of the house, it's just like completely pitch black. There's no detail of the inside, which I always thought looked a little kind of strange. I do like the clouds, I like the soldiers, the grass, and Rand just, again, the characters are pretty inconsistent between the book covers. Really the only thing that's indicating that this is Rand is the dragon tattoo on his arm. But overall, it could have been a lot better, and unfortunately, The Gathering Storm is going to land itself in D tier, above Crossroads of Twilight, but not by a whole lot. The Towers of Midnight. So The Towers of Midnight is a cover that I do like. I think that this depiction of Matt looks a whole heck of a lot better than it did in Crossroads of Twilight. And you've got Jane and Tom here at the Tower of Genji. Again, like, there's something about it where the colors really aren't popping to me. The grass is all, like, brown, and although these trees are really cool, I don't know, they look almost like kind of like mangrove trees or something like that. It's just a little bit, again, like, I think that the colors could have popped a little bit more, and I don't always understand why he's, like, these books, the covers sometimes just feel like kind of claustrophobic. Like, there's so much going on in these enclosed spaces that you can't really appreciate any singular detail. Also, Matt's spear, the Ashendari, has grown significantly from previous depictions that Darrell did. I don't hate it. I think it looks really good here. But I do think it's, like, a little bit strange. But overall, I like it. I mean, I don't know what it is about triangles. I love the triangle that Tom is drawing on the tower. I like that it's glowing. That looks really cool. So I think that this one's going to have to go above C. Yeah, that looks good to me. Just New Spring, the novel, has all of the elements that I wish the majority of the other Wheel of Time books had. It's got really vibrant colors. All of the characters are, like, well depicted on the covers. You've got some beautiful, obviously one of Darrell's strengths is that he can draw these impressive fantasy cities and clouds, and I think that's really well showcased here. I love the difference between the yellow of the trees and the green of the grass on the hill. One of the criticisms I think that's been levied against this one is that it is a little bit too reminiscent of maybe the Eye of the World cover, but the Eye of the World cover is fantastic, and I think that A New Spring, I think it's great. I think it's a great cover. I love the purple text on the book. And yeah, I think it's going to have to go in high A tier for me. High A tier. All right, and now we are going to move on to A Memory of Light. So, unfortunately, Darrell passed away before he was able to finish his cover art for A Memory of Light, and so Michael Whelan was brought in to do the final book in the series. Now, Michael Whelan has a pretty similar art style to Darrell K. Sweet, I think, in terms of these epic fantasy covers. Their styles are definitely a little bit different, but I do think that this cover fits in really well with all the other ones. It's definitely a little bit more crisp. There's a lot more detail than I think the other covers have. But I just think this cover is phenomenal. I think in terms of the final book in a series, this really is a cool one to go out on. You've got Rand here wielding Kalendor. His coat looks great. He does look maybe a little bit older than I would expect him to be, but he has been through all this trauma in the last few books, and that can really age you up. I think the depiction of the stalactites and stalagmites and everything in the cave and the crescent moon in the background, it's just a really beautiful piece. It's really come together very, very well. And although I'm not going to say it's my favorite of all the covers, I do think it's very solid, high A tier. So lastly, we have a little special treat here. Before Darrell passed away, he did complete a rough draft of his own version of the A Memory of Light cover. And personally, I think that although it's not done, I do believe this yin and yang symbol in the back, the yin and yang, I don't know, those making it look more like the yin and yang with the dots does take away a little bit from it. But the colors here are just fantastic. It's kind of funny in the blown up one, you can even see that the sky wasn't totally finished. There's some stray like brush marks and everything. The dragon mount in the background is phenomenal. Looks almost like Mount Crumpet from The Grinch. And this sort of pyre in the middle on this battlefield is just wonderful. And I'm sad that Darrell wasn't able to finish this one because I think it would have really gone out with a bang. This cover down here has been edited by somebody into what it might have looked like. But, you know, I do like it better than Michael Whelan's. And it might just, I know it's unfinished, it might be kind of biased for whatever reason, but I am going to put this one in low S tier. I just looking at the colors, I think it's beautiful. I think that even, you know, if it had just been touched up, you remove the little dots on the yin and yang, it would have been probably one of my favorite in all of the Wheel of Time. He's out on an open field, he's doing clouds, and it's not some dingy forest. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me take a look here and see if there's any of these that I would move around. I think Knife of Dreams, now that I'm looking at it, again, looking at the covers as a whole, I do actually think I am going to move a couple of these around. I really do not like the Great Hunts cover. In fact, I think I like it less than The Gathering Storm. I think Knife of Dreams is definitely better than Towers of Midnight. It might even have to go into B tier. I don't know. It's a little tricky. I guess I have them all pretty much evenly distributed at this point, but I think this one's going to have to go back here. And I'm pretty happy to lock that in as my final ranking of all the book covers. So, yeah, in the end, I think that, I guess, the Path of Daggers is the best Wheel of Time cover, and the Crossroads of Twilight is my least favorite Wheel of Time cover. So, I guess that pretty much concludes this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like the video, subscribe if you want more stuff like this. I've got a lot more Wheel of Time videos that I'm working on, and I'm trying to get them out a lot more regularly than I have in the past. And if you'd like to see me do this again with any other Wheel of Time books or other fantasy books, please let me know. I mean, I was thinking of throwing in more Wheel of Time books into this tier ranking, but that could go crazy because you can go to all different countries and stuff. But maybe if I'm feeling it, I'll do a part 2, because I do rather enjoy the sort of color block versions, the mass market paperbacks that have been released in the United States. I have pretty much all of those just because they were the easiest ones to read when I was actually buying them. And they do look really pretty on the shelf together, even if they are a little bit boring. So I wouldn't rank all of those just because they're the same design for every book. The colors are just flipped, but I might pick out my favorite and my least favorite if I were to do this again. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Win. Please subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. All right, have a good one. Bye.